Hey everyone, it's Wingspan TT, and if you're watching, you know what time it is. No, it's not time to launch our tactical nuclear arsenal at the approaching alien Starfleet just yet. It's time for Duels of the Planeswalkers 2013. Today, I'm happy to announce that Wizards of the Coast has given me and Top Tier Tactics another exclusive look at the upcoming DLC deck pack for Duels 2013. Whereas the last deck pack introduced piles for Simic and Boros, the upcoming content will feature the Gruul clans and the Orzhov Syndicate. And unlike last time, we're going to be taking a look at 10 of the most interesting cards from each deck to give you a faster, more focused look at what you can expect. If you want the full deck list, you can still find them at TopTierTactics.com. Let's talk first about the Gruul green-red deck, Berserker Rage. No, not Berserker Barrage, although that would have been pretty cool. There would have been some kind of copyright battle, you know, whatever. Berserker Rage. So green and red have always been the most primal, angry, caveman-like colors, you know, with a penchant for destruction, a healthy dose of trample and haste. And they're both like opposite of blue, so if you hate counters, stalling, or going to school, you'll probably like Berserker Rage. The deck's designed to give you lots and lots of stompy toys, and the means to throw them directly at your enemies' faces. The first card I want to show off is Tattermunge Maniac. It's a 2/1 Goblin Warrior for 1 mana. It's split, red or green, so you can choose whether you like the mountains or the forests better. You know, the forests are more intimate, mountains have that kind of romantic feeling to them. Anyway, and it has to attack each turn of Able. It really has that cool Gruul feel to it. Like, this guy's angry, he's hitting the board, he's got extra power in turn 1. He's pretty much like, if your opponent can't deal with him, they're going to be taking a big beating right away. Of course, the downside is you have to attack. This guy's angry, he wants to push, fight, shove, make things bleed. That's what he does best for 2/1. So getting this on the board right away is going to put your opponent in an awkward position. They're going to be forced to muster up some kind of defense or use removal that they probably would have liked to save for a bigger creature. This is a great way to start off your pressure against an unprepared opponent, especially if it's some kind of blue or white sissy deck. Next up is Spellbreaker Behemoth. For 4 mana, you get a 5/5 creature. That's right. On turn 4, you're dropping something pretty big and nasty. This guy can end the game in 4 swings. Not only that, he can't be countered. So again, blue mages, you people playing with the counters, with your mana leaks, with your cancels. Guess what? You're not stopping this guy. He's hitting the board. And once he's in the board, he does something a little bit extra cool, especially for the Gruul deck. He makes it so that your other creatures with power 5 or greater can't be countered. So you get this guy on the battlefield on turn 4, and for the rest of the game, if you're dropping bigger creatures, and you'll see them, they're coming, and they're quite impressive. They've got a lot of girth. They are not going to be stopped by anyone who thinks that they can just be like, no, counterspell, no, mana leak, no, whatever. Yeah, you're like, listen, you're going to get beaten in the face, and this is what's coming to hit you right now. We looked at 2 creatures, now let's look at a spell, Soul Blast. It's 6 mana, it does require 3 red, so hey, that's something to consider. It's an instant, mind you, this can be done in the middle of combat, this can be done at the end of your opponent's turn, this can be done in response to Wrath of God effect, okay? So, in order to play Soul Blast, you have to sacrifice every creature you control, and then Soul Blast deals damage equal to target creature player, cough, player cough, equal to the total power of all sacrificed creatures. So your opponent is like, guess what? I'm going to cast Mutilation and kill everything on the board. And you're like, huh, that's really interesting. My creatures are all going to die. How about instead, I'm going to sacrifice all my creatures and you take 15 damage to the face. So Soul Blast really gives your creatures something to do when they're sitting around, especially late game. A lot of times, even if you have some huge 13, some gigantic creature on the board, your opponent might have a rest on it. They might have some kind of enchantments out to prevent you from attacking. But Soul Blast, you can use their power, and with their power combined, you are, no, there's no Captain Planets. It's all fire. It's all the fire ring, because the American guy was the best. Speaking of things that you could sacrifice to do massive damage to your enemy, we have the Sheevan Worm. And for 5 mana, it's a 7/7 trample. Now there is a downside, of course, that when you play Sheevan Worm, you have to return a red or green creature to its owner's hand. But hey, if you don't have any other creatures to return to your hand somewhere around turn 5, I don't really think you're playing a green-red deck. this is something totally nasty to drop. And again, if you have that behemoth out from previously, you're not going to be able to counter Sheevan Worm. And of course, you could also use Sheevan Worm, although there's very few actual applications for this. You could return Sheevan Worm itself to your hand. So if there's some kind of effect in play, like whenever a creature comes into play, something happens that's cool, you could pay 5 mana, cast Sheevan Worm, return itself to your hand, and then you can activate that effect. And there are some effects in this game, in this particular deck even, that you can benefit from, that you'll be able to gain life from and do some other nifty things. But overall, this is just a really cheap beat stick. It comes out turn 5. It makes your opponent cry a little bit inside. Keeping with the tradition of undercosted, overpowered creatures, we have Rumbling Slum. That's right, it's an elemental. It's come to life. The city of Ravnica itself is really angry. All right, this goes out to you, all the graffiti artists out there. The buildings are not going to take it anymore. They've decided that for 4 mana, they're going to reassemble themselves into a 5/5 creature and just stomp face. Not only that, but at the beginning of your upkeep, Rumbling Slum deals 1 damage to each player, to you and to all your opponents, to your teammates, all that kind of stuff. And you might be thinking, well, that sucks, I'm going to be taking damage. The thing is, your opponent's going to be taking damage too. If you have multiple opponents, you're ultimately winning because you're dealing out more damage you're taking. And no matter what happens, you're winning because you're getting a 5/5 creature on turn 4. If that's not gravy on the cake, I don't know what is. Berserker Rage is also home to a really cool piece of equipment called the Mage Slayer. And again, you at home might be familiar with these cards. These aren't new cards. These aren't spoiler cards for some set that hasn't come out yet. But Mage Slayer is this really cool dagger, and whenever it doesn't give your creatures any kind of buffs directly, but whenever the equipped creature attacks, it deals its damage equal to its power to defending players. So you attack with one of that 7/7 worm before combat even really starts, before attacking and blocking, before any of that stuff even happens. Your opponent takes 7 damage. No matter what. Even if your worm is blocked, even if the worm is killed, alright, it doesn't matter. Mage Slayer is going to sling 7 damage to their face. Now, to be fair, I'm actually pretty sure that if someone kills the creature in response, they won't take the damage because the creature will be dead, so its effective power will be 0. But in most situations, this is absolutely brutal. This is a way to get through blockers. It's a way to give your creatures a kind of double strike, actually, especially if there's no blocking creatures available. Mage Slayer does exactly what it says that it does. It slays people who are cowards, hiding behind spells, waiting, to delay you and hold your might back. No, this is Gruul, and we punch people and get away with it. A classic card that's a little closer to my heart is Fires of Yavimaya. It's a 3-mana enchantment, and it gives all your creatures haste. Now, right off the bat, that kind of sucks. Like, let's face it, giving all your creatures haste is great and all, but maybe there's something you'd like to play on turn 3 other than enchantment that does absolutely nothing right away. Because after all, you could have played a creature on turn 3, and then instead of playing your creature on turn 4 and then attacking with it, you could have been attacking. Alright, you get the idea. You get what I'm going with. But what makes Fires of Yavimaya so great is that even when you have multiple copies of Fires of Yavimaya, it still has a purpose. And that is that you can sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya to give a creature +2/+2 until end of turn. So that means once you have this on your board, your creatures can just hit the ground running, quite literally. But it also means that even when you don't need haste, your creatures already have haste, where you don't want to use the haste exactly because you can't even bust through their defense, or you have another Fires of Yavimaya or something else in play that already gives creatures haste. Now you can sacrifice your enchantment and give something +2/+2. That it's not going to be a surprise to your opponent. Your opponent will know it's an option, but that's just something they have to play around. And they have to make a lot of decisions, like, do I remove Fires of Yavimaya if they have enchantment destruction? Because if they try to kill it, perhaps you're just going to pop it in a response and give a creature +2/+2. Or for all they know, it was just totally pointless, and they're going to kill it, and you're going to play some other creature that you didn't need haste to use anyway. So it really is a powerful card because it gives you so many options while putting your opponent in a bad position to defend against them. Really strong. This was a game changer when it was first printed, and it's still a game changer in Duels 2013. Here's a card that's not quite as powerful, but very interesting from a flavor and mechanics point of view. Branching Bolt. So this is an instant now. We're getting a green deck where you're going to have a little lightning to play with, a little direct removal. For 3 mana, you get to choose one or both. You can deal 3 damage to a creature with flying, or 3 damage to a creature without flying, or 3 damage to a creature with flying and a creature without flying. You can't use this on players. It will never hit anyone to the face, but this is great for removing blockers. And especially now in the game, there are so many decks that have creatures both on the ground and in the sky. So you see this in the Simic deck, you see this in the Boros deck, You see this in a lot of the original decks as both flyers and ground creatures, and hey, a lot of the most annoying ones have 3 or less. Is it 3 or it's less toughness, right? Not fewer toughness, even though it's discrete points that you can count. Anyway, you get the idea. Branching Bolt is going to be a great trick that you can pull out at instant speed to either remove blockers, remove attackers, or just mess with your opponent because you're a jerk. Speaking of jerks, here's the king jerk, Borborygmos. I don't know if you pronounce it that way, but it's Borborygmos or Borborygmos or whatever. He probably doesn't care. He's probably not even literate. He probably doesn't understand language at all. He's the Cyclops leader of the Gruul clans, and for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana, you get a 6/7 trample creature. But not only that, the trample does go to great effect. All right, whenever he deals damage to a player, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That includes Borborygmos, includes all your other pretty creatures, includes Hydras that you might have use for your +1/+1 counters. Basically, this guy gets through even a single point of damage, your opponent is going to be hurting more and more every turn. What I really like about this guy from a flavor point of view too is that he's got the Bor in his name. You know, originally, and I can't prove this is true, it's my understanding that the word barbarian comes from Greek, and they referred to people who didn't speak Greek as barbarians because of them. The non-Greek languages just sound like bar. So they kind of used it to refer to people who had languages that they thought were below them. So this guy's name is Borborygmos. It's got that barbarian kind of feel. He's angry. He's hitting things with a hammer that looks like it's about 30 feet tall and made out of rocks. If that doesn't scare your opponent, I don't know what will. The 10th and final Berserker Rage card that I would like to show off is, of course, Berserk. If that doesn't fit in Berserker Rage, I don't know what does. For 1 green mana, this goes back. This card goes way back. Early Magic. You can only cast it during combat. Okay? And target creature gains trample and gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is its power. So basically, target creature gets double its power and trample until end of turn. This is a crazy surprise card. This is like, I'm attacking with Borborygmos. Like, alright, fine. I'm not going to block. I can afford to take 6. It's like, really? You can afford to take 6? Can you afford to take 12? When I cast my other Berserk, can you afford to take 24? The only downside, of course, is that you have to destroy the creature at the end of combat, assuming it actually tacked, because you don't have to technically use this on a creature that actually tacked this turn. But this is absolutely brutal for 1 green mana. You know, Giant Growth is great and all, but Berserk is the original Big Daddy of punching people, smacking people, eviscerating people, and just overall being a feral, mean person. So that pretty much sums up Berserker Rage. I hope you appreciated this overview, and now we're going to switch things off to the Orzhov deck. Now let's switch gears to the Orzhov Black-White deck Grim Procession. It's like a funeral march, it's a dirge, it's like you're going to church, someone died, and it's probably going to be your opponent. This color combo is making its 2nd appearance in Duels 2013, but unlike Exalted Darkness, you'll be focusing much more on unleashing gigantic global evils and profiting from misguided sacrifice, you know, like regular church. None of that Exalted stuff. This deck gets off on offerings, giving you plenty of ways to play with your graveyard, so Necromancers and Necrophiliacs together can both rejoice. Now, it wouldn't be an Orzhov deck if we didn't get some kind of religious fanaticism in there. And what better way to show that off than with Zealous Persecution? For 2 mana, an instant, 1 white and 1 black, you get that nice mixture. It's kind of black and white cookie, except not as sweet. You know, it's a little bit bitter. And if you're feeling bitter about your opponent's board state, you can reduce their creatures by -1/-1 until end of turn, while pumping your own guys +1/+1. It's a really simple effect, right? It doesn't sound that powerful, but think about how much of a difference that makes in combat. It's pretty much putting a +2/+2 spread between your creatures and your opponent's creatures. You can use this for defense to reduce incoming damage to you. You can use this for offense to get more damage into your opponent. You can use this to kill off your opponent's weenies. They don't have to be on the ground, they don't have to be in the air. Anything with 1 toughness is going to the graveyard. And of course, you can use this to save all your creatures. Someone uses something, it deals 5 damage to all your creatures, and your creatures happen to have 5 toughness, guess what? Now they have 6. For 2 mana, this is such a versatile card, and it's going to give you, as the Orzhov Syndicate, so much more dominance in a lot of different situations that your opponent's simply not going to see coming. making a return in black-white decks, we've seen this in Exalted Darkness, is Unmake, and very few removal cards are quite as mean as Unmake is. You just, all it is 3 mana, you can split between white or black, this is going to be very easy to cast. It's an instant, exile target creature, that is it, exile target creature. You know, it used to be really powerful when cards did things like destroy target creature, they can't be regenerated, or anything like that. No, your creature's out of the game, you're not getting it back, it's getting shattered, and I love the art for this card. It's like Frodo's looking in the mirror, and as he just realizes how stupid he is, he's just getting obliterated by his very own idiocy. I hate Frodo, so that's why I'm happy to see him die. One of my favorite cards from previous Duels of the Planeswalkers games is Ob Nixilis the Fallen. This is a legend that for 5 mana, he's a 3/3 for 5 mana. You might be thinking, okay, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Well, whenever a land comes into play under your control, he gets 3 +1/+1 counters, and target player loses 3 life. So that's basically saying, you know, oh, you play a Plains, now he's a 6/6, and your opponent loses 3 life. You don't even have to attack, they're just losing life no matter what. You play Terramorphic Expanse, now he's a 9/9, you sacrifice Terramorphic Expanse and go get a Swamp, now he's a 12/12, and by the way, your opponent just lost 6 more life. Ob Nixilis the Fallen is a card that your opponent has to stop when it hits the board, and just having blockers isn't going to stop him, because even if they can completely shut down him, no matter how big he gets, they, you know, that damage, that loss of life that's going straight at their head is just going to be absolutely brutal. I love Ob Nixilis. I wish he were real and that he would propose to me and then we would go off somewhere like St. Martin and get married. It'd be really sweet, but alas, I can't. One thing that makes Grim Procession so cool is that it actually gives you tools to play around with your graveyard, and one of them right here is Necromancer's Covenant. So it's a 6 mana enchantment, a little bit of white, a little bit of black, a lot of bit of evil, and when it comes into play, you exile all creature cards in target player's graveyard from the game. That could be your graveyard if you've purposely sacrificed lesser creatures or unfortunately lost them to your opponent, or your opponent's graveyard, especially if they have annoying creatures like Chandra's Phoenixes that keep coming back to life. So once all those creatures are removed from the game, you get 2/2 black zombie creatures for each card removed this way. So your opponent has like 5 goblins in the graveyard and you remove them, now you have 5 2/2 zombies in play. And by the way, all your zombies have lifelink, and that also applies to zombies that weren't created with Necromancer's Covenant. And of course, there are effects in this deck that allow you to sacrifice your own creatures or to just kill all creatures. So if your graveyard is the one that's full of creatures, perhaps you'd like to reduce, reuse, and recycle them for great grim purpose. You know, it wouldn't be an Orzhov deck if we didn't have a Ghost Council of Orzhova, and these guys, these girls, these ghosts, whatever you call them. I mean, are you still technically a guy or a girl once you've died? I mean, you don't really have a gender anymore. You don't really possess genitalia or the ability to reproduce. So I don't know if you can even be called a he or she at that point. Regardless, for 4 mana, and I love how the text, the name of the card goes all the way to the mana symbols. It's a 4/4 creature. You know, not bad, but not great. When it comes into play, target opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Again, not really that impressive for a 4/4 legend. The thing is, it's really hard to get rid of the Ghost Council of Orzhova, because at any time you can pay 1 to sacrifice any creature you want to remove the Ghost Council of Orzhova from the game. But don't worry, it'll come back at the end of the next turn, or at the end of turn, the end of whatever is the next end of turn step. That's when it's coming back to life. So your opponent's like, hey, I'm gonna steal your Ghost Council of Orzhova. You're like, actually, I'm not. I'm gonna sacrifice one of my other little peasant creatures, and your spell's gonna do absolutely nothing, and then the Ghost Council's gonna come back, and guess what? They're gonna be pissed. Oh, and not only that, when they come back, you're gonna lose a life, and I'm gonna gain a life. You could also do things like, hey, I'm gonna cast Damnation, but in response to Damnation, I don't really want all my creatures to die. I'm gonna sacrifice one of my Thralls over here. It was gonna die anyway. I'm gonna save my Ghost Council, and then once the board is clear of all creatures, guess what? Ghost Council of Orzhova is coming back, and you're also gonna be losing a life, and I'm gonna be gaining a life. So Ghost Council of Orzhova by itself is not impressive, but in this deck, and in black and white decks in general, it gives you a lot of options. It allows you to use your creatures, sacrifice your creatures. It allows the Ghost Council to evade both specific targeted removal and board wipes, and it's just generally evil, which is absolutely fabulous. Speaking of things that are great to sacrifice, here we have the Doomed Traveler. It's a 1/1 for 1 mana. You've seen this in decks before, in Duels decks before, and I love the flavor of this card. When it dies, it becomes a 1/1 white spirit creature token, with flying, by the way. So whether you use him to attack and your opponent blocks it and it dies, use this as a chump blocker. Like basically you get so much utility out of this card. Your opponent can sweep the whole game, kill every creature, but you're going to get a creature back because Doom Traveler goes to the afterlife. He was really good in life and he gets to go to heaven. But then the Orzhov Church is like, yeah, actually you don't get to go to heaven, you're indebted to us forever, so you have to become a spirit that walks around on Earth and serves us. And that's exactly what happens. So you could use Doom Traveler, for instance, with our good friend the Ghost Council. You could also use it with your Necromancer enchantment because you could sacrifice the Doom Traveler to the Ghost Council to get a 1/1 Spirit token, and the Ghost Council will come back and you gain 1 life and your opponent loses 1 life, and you can then remove the Doom Traveler from the game, from your graveyard, and change him into 2/2 zombie token. So in that effect, the Doom Traveler could become a 2/2 zombie and a 1/1 Spirit and a life drain on your opponent for 1. So you start to see the synergy in this deck. It really comes together and it all starts at turn 1 with Doom Traveler. Speaking of returning cards and returning things from your graveyard, we have Debtor's Knell. And I'm really happy to see that there's multiple copies of Debtor's Knell in Grim Procession. It's 7 mana, which is a little steep for an enchantment, especially because this thing doesn't actually do anything when you immediately cast it, alright? Because its effect takes place at the beginning of your upkeep, so that's not coming for a little while. But for 7 mana, every single turn you can choose any creature card in any graveyard and put into play under your control. So you kill your opponent's creatures, now they come back to serve you. They become your pals, they realize that you were the cooler one, now they're fighting with you. Your opponent wiped out one of your favorite little, fun time friends, like they actually managed to kill the Ghost Council of Orzhov for some reason. Now it's like, actually, I'm bringing the Ghost Council back. And then next turn I'm going to bring Doom Traveler back, and then I'm going to sacrifice Doom Traveler to the Ghost Council. But then next turn I'm going to bring Doom Traveler back again. So actually I really have infinite Doom Travelers, and you're going to lose an infinite life while I gain it. Debtor's Knell is a really cool card. It's really one of those cards that's like, if your opponent can't remove it or can't deal with it in about 1 to 3 turns, the game's pretty much over. And Duels of the Planeswalkers, that's saying a lot because there really isn't that much enchantment removal. And hey, a lot of the cool enchantment removal is in decks like Grim Procession. So if your opponent is playing something that's more like blue or red, they're going to be crying manly tears or womanly tears or just tears in general if they happen to be a ghost. Castigate is another 1 white, 1 black card. Again, a really simple mana cost card. There's nothing too fancy about this, but so powerful. So on turn 2, you drop this. It's a sorcery. You look at an opponent's hand, you choose any card that's not a land and remove it from the game. That's it. So on turn 2, you drop this. You're like, what is the one thing in their hand that I can't deal with for the rest of the game? Maybe they have Panoptic Mirror. Maybe they have a creature that is not targetable and you're afraid you won't be able to kill it. Boom. It's out of the game. Or even late game, they could be sitting on cards. They're holding 1 card in their hand. You're like, what is it? Is it a counter? Is it something that they're just waiting for the right time to just completely obliterate me with? So even late game Castigate still has use. It's just really something that just your opponent is not going to be happy when they see Castigate enter the stack, and they're going to be even more sad when they see the card that you choose from their hands. I'm sure a lot of players are going to pause the timer and just think for a second, like, what are they going to pick? What are they going to pick? But guess what? It doesn't matter how much they want you to not pick the most powerful card in their hand. It's leaving, and there's nothing they can do about it. Grim Procession also has a lot of powerful beat down creatures in it, and Bloodgift Demon is one of the best examples of this. I mean, Bloodgift Demon is a great card in general. Let's look at this. It's 5 mana Demon. Are you surprised the creature type is Demon? For 5/4 flying creature right there, right off the bat, that's just absolutely great. I mean, that is like turn 5. All right, now you have 4 turns to live because I'm just going to fly over your army and beat you to death 20-0 in 4 turns. But not only that, at the beginning of your upkeep, target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Now, 99% of the time, you want to use this on yourself, and new players will kind of like recoil from that. Like, Wingspan, why would I want to lose life? That's terrible. But just think about it. You could draw cards. You could fill your whole hand with cards. You can make up for the life lost too. We saw already that there are combos in this deck that can give you lots of extra life. Or, of course, if your opponent happens to be at 1 or 2 life and you just want to finish them off, you can use that, although I would highly recommend against in general because, hey, for all you know, they're going to draw the card that allows them to kill Bloodgift Demon, basically meaning that you might get them out of the scenario. In most situations, you're going to be using this and keeping your hand full while you castigate your enemy, removing cards from their hand, and just laughing as you just soar over their army and just rake their face with demonic claws. The 10th and final card that I'd like to show off for Grim Procession is Blazing Archon. It's 9 mana, which is absolutely gross, alright? But hey, There's ways to cheat this into play, don't worry. Gruul Procession does have some ways to cheat cards into play. We're not going to show that just here. You can see the deck list at Top Tier Tactics. But the idea is for 9 mana, you better be getting a really cool effect. It's a 5/6 flying. Alright, I don't get how the lion is flying, but whatever. Creatures can't attack you. That's it. Creatures can't attack you. So your opponent has all these really pretty creatures. They would really like if the creatures could just like walk over the battlefield and kind of like punch you and kick you and until you die. But for 9 mana, you basically become invincible from creature-related threats. Of course, if they kill Blazing Archon, all bets are off, and there are ways to kill someone without directly attacking, as we saw before with Ob Nixilis. But overall, this is just a really powerful card, and there's so many ways to reanimate creatures in this deck. So even if you don't cheat it into play, if you legitimately cast this for 9 mana and your opponents manage to kill it, guess what? You can bring it back. And if they can't stop it, and if they can't stop the recycling, and they can't stop this 5/6 flying creature, by the way, if you haven't seen enough giant flying creatures in this deck already, I mean, they're going to be in a world of hurt. Blazing Archon, I feel, is a great game-winning card. It is expensive. You know, it's definitely not going to be in everyone's build for the deck, but it's just so flavorful and just so like, F you, I have Blazing Archon. I hope you enjoyed this overview of the 2 new deck pack DLC decks that are coming out, the Orzhov Syndicate Grim Procession and the Gruul Clan's Berserker Rage. They're really different decks. One of them's all about beating in face, flinging things at your face, getting in with haste, growing really big and attacking, and this one's more about like evil manipulation, building up armies of spirits, angels, and demons, and ultimately swing in with a flying army while whittling away your opponent's hand, their life total, and their creature total. If you appreciate this overview and you want to see the rest of the cards, you can go to TopTierTactics.com, where we have a full deck list where you can see all 60 cards in each deck, as well as the 30 unlocks for each deck. I'm Wingspan TT. I'll see you next time. Cheers.